Good morning, guys. This is Matthew, of course. Um, Going to continue on our journey with some website development. I'm really excited to continue talking about creating some pages with you during this tutorial, and also working on the menu and the navigation aspect of this website a bit. And I sincerely hope that at this point you guys are kind of seeing that um, once you do or try doing these simple operations, A, they stick with you the more that you do them, but B, you realize it's really not as difficult as you might have thought. Okay. Um, so let's see, let's go to pages. That's where we left off last time for the most part. And if you come over here and click date, I know, like, usually when you come to pages, you're going to see all these default pages that may or may not be as useful for you. But you can kind of come over here and click date, and then you can see that one, two, I've only created 2 pages actually so far. So, but if we click on that page, remember there's no content here. A normal WordPress install, they might ask you, or you might start dropping images or text actually within this area, but we're using a theme that handles that operation. I also want to point out that the parent page is portfolio because I am going to be using the portfolio page for this demo. If you go back to the PDF, I'm going to be doing, creating a pretty simple website, with a work or a portfolio page, and then with some various work portfolio pages as children of that particular parent page. And so, for example, I've only created 2 of those pages so far, but they would basically nestle within this area. I'm going to create an about page, but I don't know, or I don't think that I'm going to be using the default about page that came with the theme, because I want mine to just be a little bit more simple. And same with the CV. So I have to create a couple pages for the about and the CV page. And then as far as the contact menu item, that's actually going to connect to my Facebook social media page. And the reason why I do that is because if you put your email publicly on a website, you're going to get some spam. I promise you. It'll be more trouble than it's worth. Folks that want to contact me or who are serious, for the most part, they have some sort of Facebook access. And so if they really want to contact me, they can figure it out through social media or Instagram as well, for example. Yeah. So um, I have had my email on websites before, and it did turn into a little bit of a problem. Okay. Okay, so we still need to create a couple more pages. So let's go back, and I just kind of want to remind you guys as far as what the front page looks like. And remember, I like to have 2 windows open when I'm working. And of course, I don't leave these windows open when I'm not working. I close everything out, and I certainly log out. You don't want to eat up the bandwidth, folks, because this is shared hosting, okay? And so far, what we've done is we've done a little bit of work on the front page. We still need to do a little bit more, in all honesty. We've created some categories. And by the way, you can continue to add as many as you'd like, okay? But, when you're working out this whole website problem, you really it forces you to really understand the nature of your practice. What are you doing? How can it be categorized or defined, or maybe it's difficult to define? Is the way that you're ordering your pages going to be chronological, categorical, Is it only going to be work that you've done in the last 2 to 5 years, or is it going to be everything? When you do decide what work you want on the website, do you have documentation of that work? Do you have file folders set up holding all of those assets and pictures and process images and diagrams and sketches? Do you have that stuff? So yeah, I mean, making a website, it's more than just developing a web presence. It's basically another notch towards professionalism. Okay, folks? It's really, really important. Like when I do send out, I sent out a proposal on a call for art recently, actually, and they wanted a social media handle. They wanted a website. They wanted some examples of completed work. They wanted a bio. They wanted an artist statement. All of those things can be found on my website, but I have all that stuff ready to go. And this website project, it's basically directing you to have these things ready to go or ready to work with. That's why this is really, I mean, the WordPress is the easy part, frankly. WordPress is no problem at all, but it's working out or thrashing out all of those moving parts within a person's art practice. That's the real difficult part about this particular course, and moving forward and making sure that you have something that you're proud of at the end of this semester or class. I'm counting on all of you. I know it'll go fine. So I was thinking about something else, and last time we were just kind of looking at images and cropping them. And we were cropping them according to, remember in that initial or one of those previous videos, I was actually diagrammatically kind of identifying some of these placeholder images. And the reason why I was doing that is so that I know what dimensions I need to be using. And this one is 1200 by 690. But actually, I want to kind of just take a sidestep for a moment. And for this particular project, although it's kind of interesting because the project itself is already kind of doing that. So maybe I won't even upload it, but I'd like to show you guys the power of using software beyond just Photoshop. And Photoshop is good. You can go to the image and you can crop it to 1200 by 690 and export it as a web file, a web JPEG file as 72 DPI. You can upload it, as I've shown you in a previous video, and then you can select it through the theme backend and plug it in. Boom. But I mean, I don't want to miss a learning opportunity for you guys to use Adobe InDesign. Adobe InDesign is basically a publication design software application, but it's useful for many, many different things. I didn't really start using, I mean, Adobe InDesign, ironically, was one of the last applications I ended up using. I started with Illustrator, and I used to solve a lot of graphic problems with Adobe Illustrator. And the file sizes used to just get horrendous. And then somehow in the course of things, I discovered Adobe InDesign, and now, as you can see, I mean, I'm using it constantly, especially in my teaching practice, just developing simple letters for my CV. It's an extraordinarily useful application. And it's been invaluable for me as an educator as well, and as a designer, artist designer. So I'm going to come over here, click new file. And just because I'm a little paranoid, we need to create a file that's 1200 by 690. So I'm going to come over here to units. I'm going to select pixels and 1200 by 690. plug those dimensions in, make sure facing pages is clicked off. We don't need any of this gutter business or any of this stuff because this is not a brochure or a publication. It's just an artboard essentially. Create. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit, and I want to bring this up in preview. You can kind of basically see, I mean, this is essentially the same aspect ratio, right? It's pretty darn similar. Oops. Work better that way. Look at that. That's the same size. That's what I wanted. Okay, I'm just kind of trying to show you guys why I'm a very visual person. Again, you know, this sort of stuff helps me. And I'm going to turn the grid on because I just love the grid. It's helpful for me in that regard as well. And I want to create, you know, the way that InDesign, this is not an InDesign tutorial, so I'm not going to go into great detail, but essentially you can create these boxes and these boxes can hold assets. Okay. The boxes don't have to be ordinary squares or rectangles. You can go back in and you can adjust these boxes to fit shapes. And right now, I mean, I want this. In fact, I'm going to use, first I'm going to come up here and snap to grid. I really like snap to grid a lot too. There we go. See, things are just going to fit. I'm actually going beyond the box just a hair. And there's a reason for that, because I don't want, I essentially want the image to bleed outside of the constraints of the artboard just a hair, so that I don't have any weird kind of you know, white streaks on the side, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's an opportunity to place an asset. I need to do that one more time. And again, I'm really just kind of showing you guys this as an example of how those dimensions can be useful. And you guys can see like that, you know, this was 1200 by 690, but that sort of thing does not fall directly on the grid. And that's why I'm going a little bit beyond the grid. See that? Just to be safe. You know, if you're a designer, you get paranoid. And you start to get ahead of problems. That's really what you're seeing me do right there. Oh, look at that. And see, you know, with the grid, those are two objects, but they're seamless, right? Okay. Select one. And I'm actually going to create a 6th page just for fun. So I'll give my drive a second to kind of come up here. Hasn't had its coffee yet this morning, apparently. There it is. Art design, everything's there. And look at, it's all organized according to year. I can find this stuff. It's like, you know, Willy Wonka, you know, in the candy shop. I can go in here and I can find anything, folks. Anything that I've done within that constraint. But the point I'm trying to make is I know where the stuff is. I know what's going on in my world. Okay, you have to know what's going on in your world. You have to have a system. I haven't actually documented this painting properly yet, but I do have some detail images that could be useful. So let's see, documentation, process. That's what I'm interested in. So you can kind of see even like the beginning stages. I don't know if these are what I want or not. No, I don't actually. Try something else. Let's go back to 2010. I've got an idea. It's Kratu analysis 1. I'm gonna plug that in. And I want to show you something else. So select, I have to, I mean, a lot of these applications are object oriented, so I have to select the object and then come up here to object, fit. I want to show you the difference. Fill frame proportionally, object, fit content proportionally. And then if I double click into this object with the black arrow, you can see the outline of the actual image, and it's going beyond the bounding box. But I want this to fill frame proportionally. If I zoom in, look, it's nothing is lost. And then there's a corresponding piece that I think will go nicely right next to it. And there's my edit. I can select both of them at the same time and then say fill frame proportionally. Okay. And then I can file, save as, and I'm just going to say Karatu. And I'm going to put that on my desktop. Now I just saved the file, but what I need to do now is I need to export. So export, I can export a JPEG, but you can see there are lots of options here to, I mean, export an Adobe PDF print, a JPEG or a PNG. Those are pretty common file formats that I'm exporting out of Adobe InDesign. But this is, you know, a website, so I think I'm going to go with the JPEG. Okay. And when there's this export JPEG dialog box, and you can actually bump up the quality. I think that's a good idea, but you can also tell InDesign that you'd like to export it as 72 DPI. So export, make sure that it's on the desktop. Yeah, so there's the InDesign file, and there is the JPEG file that I just exported. So you can kind of, I also want to point something else out. This is pretty interesting. Look at the way that things are kind of blurry and not so clear in the application. But when I exported the file, look how crystal clear that business is. It's real nice. That's the beauty of InDesign. It dumbs down things while you're working. And then when you're ready to export, it's kind of like the analogy I constantly love to use in class. It's kind of like if you're using a crock pot to make a stew. There are so many different ingredients that you're using. You're using beef, pork, chicken stock, celery, cans of tomatoes, garlic, yada, yada, yada. You take all that stuff, all these different assets, you put them in the crock pot, and all of these assets get boiled down and resolved and exported into a soup format or a unified format. And that's essentially what InDesign does. And so it just so happened that it really only needed to work with two different types of assets. But what if you're working on a publication design book, like a monograph for an artist who's been working his or her whole life? They're going to have lots of different assets. In fact, they're going to have a project folder of art and design things similar to the one that you're developing. And then they're going to hand it to you and say, what can you do with this? And then you're going to have to start thinking about how to put these things in the crock pot. Okay, so that's just using, essentially, again, this is, I know it's a detour, but it's a way to think about using other applications to create these assets that are the right size. And so if we go to Rocket Launcher, this folder, again, I'm just showing you how these diagrammatic images can be useful when you're making a website so that you can create identical verbatim assets that represent your work. Okay. And by the way, this project was an architecture project, and you can kind of see the scale. This is actually a site. You can see the footprint of the site right here. And me just kind of this was a fun project. I loved it. This is the site itself, and this is the way that I organized the site. This is actually a principle that I still use in my work, in my painting work. And believe it or not, this was an architectural concept partie. But it was also very painterly. You know, this is lithography and serigraphy, and this is wood, and this is laser etching, and, you know, like me kind of collaging and painting with these assets to diagrammatically represent a site, you know. So that's what's happening here. So this is a little further out, and this is a little closer in. Okay, just kind of fun to give you guys a little insight into my world. We don't need this open anymore, so I'm going to close it. But InDesign is a beautiful application. Highly suggested. If you want to know more about InDesign, take publication design with me. Okay. So you guys, I wanted to show you that, but I don't think I'm going to upload that here because, again, this is not a comprehensive website for myself. For the most part, what I'm doing here is to show you these essential steps that you need to solve your own unique web problem. Okay. If I were to rebuild my entire website, we would be here for quite a bit longer, and mostly you guys just kind of watching me repeat the same action over and over and over again. In web design, that's really what it is. It's a whole lot of repetition, folks. Okay, that's all it is. But having that plan for a good user experience is really useful. If you get on WordPress and just sort of idle around without purpose, then things are going to take longer than they need to take. So going back to the back end, I've created the exploded piece and the sawmill piece. I now need to create the Caulfield piece. So I'm going to actually go to my handy drive. So my spreadsheet is on my Google Drive account right here. And I like this because I can just copy and paste things. Okay. So the next one I needed to make to create these 5 pages is the Caulfield piece. I know exactly where that is, but I don't want to type it out. I'm working smarter, not harder. So I'm going to come over here and select Caulfield. Caulfield, by the way, was a piece that that I made that's site-based again, actually, but it's based off of my experience going to school in San Francisco. And my mother's father died when she was very young, and he's buried out at the Presidio in San Francisco. He was in the military. And so I went out there while I was going to school. I went out to the Presidio looking for his grave. I was unable to find the grave, but the experience stayed with me, and that experience translated into this painting. So yeah, that's what this painting is about. So I'm going to come here to the back end. I'm going to add a new page. It's called Caulfield. Okay. Right now I'm going to save it as a draft. Okay. And I also want to, I don't know why, I don't know if it's a glitch or what, but just, okay, there it goes. Now it's working. But I want to give this a parent page of portfolio in the web architecture scheme of things. I can save the draft. Next thing I want to do is I like coming over here to quick edit, and I can change the slug here. Where's my slug? Well, it's on my plan. BOL 21815. Parent page portfolio, we're looking good. Update. And I actually want to make sure that I do not leave this in draft status. You have to publish the page. If you do not publish the page, it won't work. Okay, so I've made that mistake before. I learned the hard way. So it's a very important piece of information I just gave you guys. You got to make sure that these pages are published. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, all three of those are currently solved. Now I need to add my glacier portrait. That's essentially what that painting is. It's the name is right here. I have a sister who lives in Norway, and so it's like this personal connection to another place that's mysterious and fascinating to me, but also this, idea of loss. These glaciers are eroding and melting and disappearing. So it's common to create a portrait, in an art design practice. So, but this is, believe it or not, is a portrait. My interpretation or portrait of a glacier. Add new. Same drill. And right now, realize I want to finish this step so I can move on to the next step, right? Ooh, I wonder if the server is going a little slow. It's maybe because we have a lot of people bombing around. Who knows? Just got to be patient. There we go. Paste that in, save as draft, come down here, arrange it within the web architecture, save as draft. Sometimes I wish it would permanently stay in the date mode, but that's just me being picky. Come back here. I need slug, right? And I also want to change this to published. You see where I changed this to published. Okay. Making sure that everything's good here. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we only have one more to go, which is, I think I was describing this piece to you guys earlier, but I'm interested in going to places and having those experiences and then bringing those experiences into my work. And so this was actually done 10 years ago now, believe it or not. Documentation is still pretty good. The problem is when I photographed these, the quality of the camera 10 years ago was quite different. I think I was using I used a D90, I think, to document this work. A Nikon D90 at the time was a pretty good camera with a 50mm lens. But technology has just improved so much. The real important thing is that the color is accurate and everything is in focus. Okay, guys. So going back to 212, there they are, because the 1, 2, 3, there were 3 of them. I gotta make sure I'm using the right one though. Let me double check that. And again, I know exactly how to find this stuff, so it's easy to really kind of coordinate this process, right? Not that one. There it is. So it's fault line 2. New page. Fault line 2. Save as draft real quick. Arrange the architecture so that portfolio is the parent page. Save as draft again. Go back. I do like this quick edit mode because here I can add this slug really easily. Now, again, I think I explained why I'm using that simplified slug within my web URL, because sometimes the title of a painting can be quite long, but I want my web URL to be simple. Okay. So and it helps me to stay organized. This is definitely a result of my design training and being methodical in my process and programming. Okay, so and then I want it to be published. Update. Right. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages, right? Okay. Now we've created these pages on the WordPress backend. And then this is review, obviously, because we were doing this a little bit in the last video, but it's good to hammer on this nail again because it's important. This is basic and essential stuff, guys. If you're not if you're not thinking about how you can do this for your own project, then you're gonna fall behind a little bit. So I've created these pages on the WordPress backend. Now I need to create the pages on the Fluent backend. And I do that by coming up here to outlines, right? Currently, I've created 2 of these pages. And notice how I'm using the slug here to identify those pages. And if I remember correctly, I originally used the right sidebar layout. I duplicated it to create one of these pages. But now I'm just going to keep duplicating from these pages that I've been making, right? And so let's see here. I guess we can start with this one since it's already selected. Simply click duplicate. Give it the name of the slug, in my opinion, because it keeps things simple. Yes, you do want to inherit everything. Confirm. There it is. And I'm the kind of guy, I like to do batch operations. And so I've got 3. There's 2 more that I need to complete. Let's see, which ones are they? Still need to do the Caulfield, I believe. Caulfield was 218. I think it was the last painting I did in 2018. Yeah. So there it is. I love having all this information just ready to go, guys. It's so helpful. And again, this is a way to organize yourself and see, what you've been doing. Maybe you don't see enough and you need to work harder. I guess that's artists are always thinking that I need to get to work. I need to get to work. One of those things, right? I'm going to duplicate again. Okay. So let's see, I've got, only one I don't have is the Glacier. Glacier is easy because that one was recently completed. Took a while. That one took a lot of endurance, frankly. It's ready. But I don't want the name. I only want the catalog number. Let's refresh. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not going to create all of these. I'm only going to create 5. Okay, folks. So now I've got the pages created on the WordPress backend, and I've got the outlines or pages, quote unquote, created on the theme backend. Now I need to establish that connection. So let's go ahead and do that. It's really important to be organized in this moment as well. So BOL 21012. I can go to assignments. BOL 21012 is the fault line piece. That's exactly why I want to double check. That's actually the sawmill site analysis piece. So I think we've already turned it on. And yes, so this one has already been turned on, so we're good. And you see what I did there? I gently scroll down to this section called pages. And these are all the pages on WordPress that have been created. And I'm only doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't have more than one page turned on for one outline. So that's why you have to be very kind of cautious with this step. But I only have one page turned on, that's Sawmill. Okay, so we're good there. I'm going to save it just because. So now we're going to go to a different outline. This is the fault line piece. I know because it's 2012, all right? I don't need to double check that one. But if I come down here, there it is, turning it on, saving it. Okay. So I've done 210, 212, 218, 15. Isn't that Caulfield? Yes. Scroll down gently. Find Caulfield. Turn it on. Save it. You only have one outline talking to one page. You do not want to, as this is a Ghostbusters quote, do not cross the streams. Okay. Gozer will get mad. Let's see. What's next? We've got this one turned on. We did it last time. We just turned that one on. Now it's 219.10 is the exploded axon. Just because it'll just take a second. Let's double check. Yes, it's on. Last one is the glacier piece that we just added. Gonna turn it on. We're gonna establish that communication. That's what we're really doing. We're saying this page should be talking to this layout. Save. That's pretty easy, as long as you stay organized. If you lose your train of organization, this can turn into a nightmare really, really quickly. So please be methodical. All right. Now what? Okay. Well, you know what I want to do? I just kind of want to, the only way currently that we can see these pages is by going to the WordPress backend, clicking on the page, and then clicking on the URL. And here we can even double check the URL that, it's everything that we want it to be. There it is right there. It's coming up a little bit slow. But yeah, that's the way it should look because that's the right sidebar generic layout. Okay, folks? But the important thing I want to show you is, look, there's the URL. This is my website install that is called test. Beyond that, then it says portfolio. And then it says BOL 212.7. Instead of it saying fault line 2, it says BOL 212.7. Why am I showing you this? Because, well, these URLs are important. I am going to and it can be a little bit tedious. If I really wanted to be smart, in fact, I'm going to do that. I am going to, you can create these notes to yourself because I need the URLs for all 5 of those pages. Okay, guys? I should have clicked on pages. That's my bad. There we go. Oops, and I'm not creating a new page. That was a mistake. Okay, so I need the URL for the Glacier now. Come on. I told you that this server has a lot of student installs on it. It'll go fine. Just be patient with her. Okay. And that you can see this, the system is kind of showing itself to 212.7, 222.3. Those are different web projects or different projects. Don't need that anymore. Back up. Grab the Caulfield link. What I'm really starting to do here is I'm starting to connect the dots. That's the best way to really put it. And you'll see how I'm doing that here in a second. And they're all the same. But all I need to do eventually, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to fix the content. Okay. I'm going to change the content. I'm not there yet. I'm kind of, there's some, in a way, web design is also kind of like working in a kitchen, you know, where there are a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of prep in order to be prepared for that evening. So there's a lot of foresight in the web world. Okay, now I've got these URLs. Now I'm going to go back to the front end, or excuse me, the theme back end of my install. And I'm going to go to the home page. Currently, the reason why I'm going to the home page is because I think these are great entryways into your web architecture. So you can sort of cherry pick different paintings or drawings or photographs, whatever it is, to sort of bring the user into the web architecture that you've planned. But right now, these are not interactive. So I'm going to add that interactivity. Where do I do that? Well, I need to go to not the base outline, but the home page. Here, there's the slider that we were working with, and we did upload the case studies. So there's comp2. Comp2 is, I could actually start giving these proper names. Comp2 is Caulfield. Caulfield is actually 218.15. So just for my own mental health, and because I can be a little bit, you know, that sort of thing is helpful to me. Okay, I need to know what I'm working with. Click on it. Go back here. 218.15, right? That pound sign is a placeholder. I want it to definitely not go to a new window, but you're taking the user to another place within the site, so you don't need to use a new window, right? That's a user experience question. I want it to be default bottom and light for all of these. Apply. Fabrication. Comp5 is 210, 12, I believe. Yeah. You guys, this is just for my peace of mind, but that's just what it is. Comp5 doesn't mean anything to the user. The real truth is this doesn't necessarily mean anything to the user either, but they can start seeing that there's a method to your madness in your organization. That's nice. So now I need the URL 210.12, right? Replace pound sign. Default bottom light, make sure it's consistent, save. Okay, exploded. Let's see, comp 3 is exploded axon. Right here. Let's see here. It's 219.10. So it's this one. Exploded axon 3. And comp 4 is the glacier piece. And I'm not sure if exploded is the right way to describe this piece, but for the sake of time, I'm going to leave it as is, okay? So I'm going to come back here. $219.10 default blah blah blah. Make sure that's all good. Go back, grab the 219.10 URL, plug it in. Yeah, looks good. 220. Plug it in. Save. Oh, I need to. This should be default bottom and light. Okay. Apply and save. Okay. I'll come back here and refresh. It's nice. So now it's reading the catalog numbers, which can be helpful, and it's consistently all on the bottom lower left. Do you see that? Except for that one. We didn't quite get there, did we? Whoops. Got to go back in. This one, which is 212.7, BOL 212.7. I could have typed it out, but I mean, I just like copy and paste. It's easy. And it prevents the opportunity for error to occur. I got to plug in the URL. Apply and save. Check your work. Refresh. Okay, there we go. All 5 are set up now. So if I click here, guess what? It should come on. There it goes. So now we have some navigation happening here. But in order for that to happen, we had to create the pages, and we had to essentially discover what these URLs are going to be. So now you kind of start to understand why I write some of these JPEG paths and just random things on this spreadsheet, because it can be helpful, all right? I'll leave that up to you. The way you guys create your web architecture and create your spreadsheet, it's up to you. I'm just giving you friendly advice from my experience. I can't, you know, the old phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't force him to drink. Okay. We're still not there. And actually, we can include the navigation here as well. And in fact, 5 doesn't mean anything, right? So we got to do the same thing. We got to go back. I mean, all the details matter so much with this web stuff, folks. And I don't know. I'm gonna. One is BOL 212.7 again. I can copy and paste it from here too. Wait. No avatar, no author, no date, none of that crazy stuff. We don't need it. We really don't need this category link either. We do want this link though. Where is that URL? Well, we've got them set up, ready to go. Apply. 2 is the Caulfield, which is BOL 21815. Don't need that. We do need the full URL. I'm trying to connect those dots here, guys. That's all I'm doing. 3 is the exploded piece, which is 21910. Have the full URL. I think you guys are catching on to the fact that there is a whole lot of repetition with this process. 4 is the glacier piece, which was kind of one of my more recently completed pieces. Don't need the secondary link, but we do need to plug this guy into the primary link location. 5, last one, guys. It's 210. Kind of careful selecting these things. BOL 21012. Apply and save. Check your work. Much better. I like that much better. And in theory, if I click on 21815 here, it should take me to the page. There it is. Double check 21815. So I'm connecting those dots. I can also go to that same location. Here, another location on the front page of the site. I'm giving the user multiple opportunities to find content, right? User experience. And then, these would change. All this would be, this is a living document. You can change these things over time to discover what's working, or maybe just to show your new work, or your new photographs or paintings. It's good. Okay. I think the last thing that's really kind of disturbing me is the idea, well, we need an about page and a CV page. I know we need those things. And instead of waiting, I'm going to go ahead and create those right now. So these are not pages for portfolio content. They're pages for just text, real simple stuff. For consistency, I'm going to use the same right sidebar layout. But first thing I need to do is I have to go to the WordPress backend, and I need to create these 2 pages. Now, here's something that we need to think about, though. Okay, so notice that this says about us, and then the slug also says about us. That's good, leave that. Because the truth is, we're not going to need this. In fact, I'm going to unpublish this. I'm going to turn it into a draft, because I'm going to get rid of it. And by the way, when I do that, let's test something real quick. It's still working. That's interesting. But you know what's not working? Now it's saying page ID 37. So we did break something. But the point I'm trying to make is that yeah, when you have a page in draft mode, it's not going to function. It's not going to function 100%. So just kind of keep that in mind. Anyway, that's just a quick sort of sidebar lesson. I know I need to create 2 new pages, but I also know that I have a slug called About Us. I don't want to repeat that slug. Again, the Ghostbusters quote, do not cross the streams. If you're telling the PHP database that there are 2 pages called About Us, About Dash Us, then how is it going to know which one that you want to use? And so you have to be very cautious when you're doing this stuff, folks, that you don't cross the streams. You cannot have duplicate pages. It's just not going to work. All right. I'm going to add new. It's just going to be called About. There's no parent page because it's at the top. Publish. And by the way, it's going a little slow, isn't it? Quick edit shows that the slug is about. That's good. All right, so we have everything situated the way we want it to be. I need to add another one, and you could call it curriculum vitae, spell it out. In fact, I would advise to do that. I would just want to make sure I get the spelling right. I'm always paranoid that my spelling is incorrect. We need a capital C and a capital V. And we want to save as draft. And we also want to, this is an example of a really kind of long URL. So it could just say CV as the slug. Oh, we just made a mistake though. CV is actually a child of the parent page in our web architecture. Okay. And now let's go back to the Fluent theme backend because we need to create a couple layouts. And again, I'm just going to duplicate. I like the right sidebar layout because I like consistency and I like the simplicity. So I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to call this CV. Now I'm going to duplicate. And I'm going to call this About. Refresh. And then you'll see everything's looking good. About, notice how everything kind of arranges alphabetically when you're looking for things, okay, guys? Which is another reason why this catalog system that I'm using is very useful in web design. I mean, all these reasons just kind of start popping up, but just take my advice, all right? Or do it your own way. Whatever you need to do to satisfy your web project. Okay, so we need to turn this on though, as far as the communication, right? So click to the About page, Assignments, scroll down. There is the new About, there's the old About page, that's the new one. Save. Now go to CV. You got to turn that puppy on. Whoops, it's taking a second. There it goes. Notice how CV is a child of About. That's exactly what we wanted. Save. Okay, this is really kind of getting to an exciting moment, guys, because now we've been creating these pages and making some connections, but we still have this old menu happening up here, which is not cool. I'm tired of looking at this. Let's make it our own. Okay. Okay, so now we got to go to on the back end, the WordPress back end. By the way, the menu business is for the most part done on the WordPress back end because we've established the communication between the theme and the WordPress pages over here. Now we need to rearrange the menu, which is done on the WordPress backend. Go to Appearance, click on Menus. These are all the pages that have been created. Look at, they're there waiting for you. And this is all just a bunch of stuff that, frankly, we don't need. Remove. 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 Let's get rid of all this stuff. We don't need it. Now, that's not to say it's not useful, because there's content on these pages that sort of guide you a bit. We don't need any of this stuff either. Even this contact page, we don't need. We're kind of starting fresh and doing our own thing. Deleting, this is a little bit tedious, but necessary. We don't need this pages either. I mean, I know, yeah, I mean, all of this stuff we don't need. You can also always go to the Rocket Theme website and you can look at the demo. And the demo will have all of these pages there for you to look at. So if you still want to sort of have the documentation to learn from, don't worry, you can still find it. There's one page actually that we deleted that I still think that we need, and that's the portfolio page, but we can add it back. That's the about page that we just made. That's weird. I don't see the CV page. I'll have to go back and figure that out, why it's not there. Okay. But we do need the portfolio and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add to menu. And all you have to do is sort of eke these over a hair, and then they will be sort of below. Okay. And remember the way that we're arranging things also. The work comes before the about page. We need to go back and figure out why the CV page is not popping up. So that's something that we'll have to investigate. We do also want a custom, we want to create a custom link for contact. I need to go get the URL real quick. In fact, actually, I'm going to use the Art Design DC. So if you guys haven't followed this yet, it's useful, especially if you're a design student with me. Okay. Please do that. Also subscribe to my YouTube page too. You know, give me a subscribe, please. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Add to menu. Simple as that. Now save. Let's see how this looks. Refresh. Look at that. Real nice and easy. Now, we haven't changed any of this content yet. We're not going to do that during this video. We're going to save that for the next video. Ooh, that's a mistake right there. That needs to open up in a new window. So we'll work on that, because we don't want to take, this link would take the user outside of our website. We never want to do that. This should open up in a separate page. So that's something to think about. And then we need to, I want to figure this out really quickly. I want to know why that CV page is not popping up. Ah, look what happened, guys. Oh man, it's still a draft. It's got to be published. That's why it wasn't showing up. Okay, guys. Menus. There it is. Add to menu. Where do we want it? Well, it's a child of about. Now, see, there's always something that pops up, and you got to sort of backtrack a little bit and figure out what went wrong. That was a very simple mistake, but believe me, guys, this stuff happens. Okay, so now we have some navigation. So if I come over here and click on Caulfield, it's going to take me to that page, that duck that I've set up. If I want to see the CV, it'll take me to that duck. And look at the web URL up here, about. So here's the main page, then it says about, and then it says CV. So this reflects the web architecture that's happening here. It's very, very important, guys. Very important. I still have a lot of fun doing this, folks. You can hear it in my voice. I think web design is a lot of fun. It's just fun. And you know, I once had a friend say this to me, and it really stayed with me and resonated with me. If you're lucky enough to have a job where you get to go to work and get paid and be creative, you're doing pretty well. All right, guys, I'm going to say that again. If you're lucky enough to have a job where you get to go to an office and interact with really interesting, incredible people, and you get to practice your skill at creativity and solving visual problems, you're really lucky, because not everyone has that in front of them every day. That's my goal for you, is to have a happy professional career that is rewarding, both personally and professionally. Okay, we'll get to all this other stuff, but we have more time. I mean, as far as the navigation, we've got some basic things, I think, set up with the menu up here, but we really couldn't get there until we created the pages and established that communication. And we had to sort of walk through a few portals to get to this place, okay? And that's why I'm setting up these videos chronologically the way that I am, so that you guys don't think, oh, I'm just going to start creating a menu and doing this. Don't do that, please. For God's sake, listen to me. Just take it slow and take it step by step, and you'll get to the finish line, I promise. All right. If you still don't have something that looks kind of like this, then you're in a bad spot. I'm telling you right now. I'll say it again. You can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. So please take a sip. That's all I got for this video. I think that's plenty. I do want to look at the project PDF really quick. This is, in theory, project 4 of 8. So really, we're kind of reaching a halfway mark in this course. This is all about creating pages and then setting up the menu and connecting those dots and setting up that navigation as far as the user experience. That's the big thing that we were doing in this video. And so I think you have some information to work with. Notice how the menu that I created really matches the suggested menu that you all have on your PDF. Please don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't think that you know something special about web design that decades of web designers have been using effectively for clients here and there. Your work does that heavy lifting. Your work, or your assets are what makes a website unique. As far as a user being able to find pages, as long as they get there. And I'll give you an example. It's pretty standardized that when you guys come to a stoplight, Red means stop, yellow means caution or slow down, and green means go. If folks start reinventing those interpretations or that experience, it's chaos, car accidents, people get hurt. It just doesn't work. There's a system of design in this world that hopefully we can all get on the same page with. Now, I'm not trying to box you in. I'm just trying to encourage you guys to choose your battles. Don't battle against a beautiful, simple menu. It works. Let it work for you. That's all I got for today. Take it easy. Bye-bye, folks.